So, it's been a while since the last time I posted an episode. It's not like I wasn't planning to do an episode. I had one planned. I was going to do one about urban legends in Utah. But then I got the opportunity to take a trip up to Salt Lake, and I figured since there are so many stories about Salt Lake in particular, especially to us Utah locals, why not do an episode all about our lovely capital? Salt Lake City has a rich history. Established on July 24, 1847, Salt Lake City began as a settlement for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, whom were fleeing persecution from the eastern states of the U.S. It is the capital city of Utah and arguably one of Utah's largest cities. With its roots as a Mormon foothold in a major mining town, Salt Lake City has seen a lot over its 180-year history. So it comes as no surprise that a few ghost stories and urban legends would have started here as well. The McCune Mansion. The McCune Mansion was built for Alfred McCune and his wife by architect S.C. Dallas. Built in 1901 at a cost of $1 million, this beautiful home can still be found in the hills of the Capital District of Salt Lake City. Sadly, the McCunes gave up this house in 1920 when Alfred McCune's wife began to have health problems, and they had to move to Southern California. Elizabeth McCune gave the house to the LDS Church, which used it as the McCune School of Music and Art until 1957. It was then used as the Brigham Young University Salt Lake City Center until 1972. Then it became the Virginia Tanner School of Dance until it was purchased and restored by Philip McCarthy in 1999. It is still owned and leased as an event space by the McCarthy family. But a house that sits at over 120 years old doesn't come without some baggage, as the house is allegedly haunted. Stories vary from a little girl exiting a ballroom mirror to voices and shadows being heard and seen on the premises. I was given the opportunity to tour the property and see the beautiful ballrooms and ornate decoration. I did not, however, get the opportunity to introduce myself to any ghosts. Fear Factory. Just off the 600 South exit on I-15 sits Searchlights, giant demon statues lurking around the top of the factory and Freddy Krueger painted on the giant wall. Sitting on 666 West in Salt Lake City, Fear Factory beckons any brave guest willing to enter. The factory is more than a haunted house attraction, though. It is also a nightmarish, historical site of Utah. It was built back in the late 1800s by a cement company. The working conditions were extremely hazardous and there were numerous accidents and even deaths. One such death was George Howe, who died while oiling a coal crusher at the factory. As he was oiling the machine, his sleeve got caught, and unable to free himself, he was slowly dragged through the coal crusher. A drunk man wandering the tracks nearby the building is also said to have fallen and passed out on the tracks, only to be decapitated by a train. Since 2010, Fear Factory has reopened the gates of the old factory to the public to see, if they are brave enough to walk through its haunted halls from its lower levels to the top of the rafters. The haunted factory changes its experience every year, making it different from the previous. It will continue to keep its gates open until November 4th for those seeking thrills even after the Halloween season ends. The Rio Grande Railroad Depot. Currently the home of the Utah State Historical Society, people began to notice the hauntings in 1940. The Rio Grande train depot was constructed in 1910 by the Rio Grande Western Railroad and was in operation from 1910 to 1947. As reported by haunted houses, the most popular apparition is known as the Purple Lady. One story says that the woman met her fiancé at the train station as he was leaving for either World War I or World War II. The two got into an argument and called off the engagement. The man took the engagement ring and threw it onto the train tracks. When the woman went to retrieve it, she was struck and killed by a train. She's most often seen towards the north side of the depot around the cafe. The Utah Historical Society had but the following account of the Purple Lady from their employees. Christine Guston, a secretary for the society in 1992, said that a woman named Heidi went into the women's restroom and was overcome by an angry, vicious feeling she couldn't understand. She turned to see a black-haired woman wearing a long purple sequin dress and sitting on the couch. Terrified, she ran out of the bathroom. According to the society, the depot has another ghost said to haunt the building, known as the Tunnel Ghost. This is supposedly the ghost of a man who was killed during construction of a tunnel between the train depot and the power plant next door. Salt Lake City Cemetery. This picturesque and peaceful cemetery is home to many ghostly urban legends, from soldiers walking the headstones to pioneer women crying over the graves, and even sightings of the devil himself. But probably the most famous story of all is the legend of Emo's grave. For decades, the story of Emo's grave has been passed down from generation to generation. Who is this Emo, and what is the story behind his grave? Urban legend tells us that if you light a candle and walk backwards around the grave 3 times, when you peer into the crypt you will see the face of Emo the ghost. Every person you talk to in Salt Lake City knows somebody who has tried the ritual and has seen Emo. I have yet to talk to somebody directly who has seen Emo or even see him myself. When I go to the Salt Lake City Cemetery, it's always a peaceful, calming place full of chirping birds and shady trees. Emo's grave is actually a crypt at the Salt Lake City Cemetery built to house the remains of Jacob E. Moritz, an early Utah politician and founder of the Salt Lake Brewery. Moritz was a German that came to Utah in 1871. In 1887, he became an active member of the Chamber of Commerce. He founded the Salt Lake Brewing Company, and in 1891, it was known as one of the largest breweries outside of Wisconsin. They were producing over 100,000 barrels of beer per year. That was an enormous amount, as even today the Uinta Brewing Company and Utah Brewers Cooperative combined a produced amount of about 30,000 barrels of beer annually. Moritz also owned 36 saloons in Utah. Because of the laws leading up to Prohibition in 1906, his production dropped to about 50,000 barrels annually. In 1910, Moritz became ill and returned to Germany, where he eventually died. Because of his strong ties to Utah and its history, his ashes were shipped back to Utah and placed in an urn inside the crypt bearing his name in the Salt Lake City Cemetery. There is no documented date as to when the legend of Emo's grave began, or where the name Emo even came from. But as you can see, vandals have caused some drastic alterations to the Moritz monument. The window and door handles are no longer there, and I've been told that Jacob Moritz's remains have also been removed to an undisclosed location. While certainly an awe-inspiring and spooky cemetery, I can happily say that I did not experience any ghosts here, but I did get the crap scared out of me by a deer wandering the cemetery grounds. That's all we have for today's episode. If you liked it, hit the like button and subscribe for more. I would like to give a very special thanks to Preservation Utah for the tour of the McCune Mansion and the information on the cemetery. If you have an idea of something you would like to see in the future, let me know by putting it in the comment section below. And hey, while you're down there, tell us, What do you fear?